Democrats and the media ramping up calls to ban guns after the massacre in Highland Park. Vice President Harris leading the charge while visiting the area by calling for an assault weapons ban. But it wouldn't be a Kamala speech without some of her signature word linguini.
We'll deal with what we need to deal with in terms of also as we move forward, all agreeing that we got to be smarter as a country in terms of who has access to what, and in particular assault weapons. And we got to take this stuff seriously as you are, because you have been forced to have to take it seriously.
Congress needs to have the courage to act and renew the assault weapons ban.
The media is blaming the violence on the Constitution because, it's actually racist.
This is 100% us, and it's because we are essentially slaves to a document that was written, more than 230 years ago by a tiny group of white slave-owning men, and we cannot break out of the bondage that we have imposed on ourselves from feeling like we have to. Everything by our Supreme Court is decided in reference to this ancient document, which is just not serving us well.
Tiny. Way to be sizist. And as the media focuses solely on one act of violence, they're ignoring other crime. Over 200 people were shot and killed over the July 4th holiday weekend in cities. Jessica, this is now, I believe, the third or fourth crisis that they've sent the vice president to. Is it clear to you, as it is clear to me, that this is kind of a performative political virtue signal? Send her there. She doesn't break anything. She comes back, because she hasn't really solved a single problem.
Well, it's a communication job versus solving what's going on at the border or the root causes issue are very different things. And I actually thought you did a good job talking about the Roe decision. I think it is important when you have the first female vice president to send her out there to talk about a decision that affects women all across the country. And we're linguini or whatever we're calling it. I wasn't that caught up in it. I was caught up in the substance of it, which is that renewing the assault weapons ban, which brought down deaths. There were 53 less deaths, mass shootings down by 43% over that 10-year period, and then we saw a 243% spike in the 10 years after it, is a good idea. And J.B. Pritzker, to your point, Sandra, he really captured the mood and how people are feeling about this, that they want more. And I understand there is an assault weapons ban in Illinois, but a federal one, to make sure that we don't wake up on any given day, on whether it's 4th of July, another holiday, or just your average Tuesday, and see more people needlessly slaughtered with weapons that there's no good reason that they should have access to. And I know that this kid in particular, I cannot believe that his father signed off on this to help him get it. And obviously there were red flags all over the place. But we can stop some of these shootings by making this a federal policy again.
And there were red flag laws that clearly didn't work.
Right, yeah. Right? I mean, I was going to ask the judge about this, there were so many red flags. What happened here? Who dropped the ball?
I thought it was interesting yesterday with a press conference where I think it's the deputy sheriff said, well, there's nothing we could have done because we didn't have anyone to sign a complaint. I and about 50 prosecutors I know would disagree with that. If you go into a home and there are 17 knives and one sword and one dagger, and the individual had tried to kill himself a few months earlier, you don't take the knives and then say, gee, you know what, we're going to leave him here. We already know he's suicidal. He may have been homicidal with all these knives. They didn't give the information to the state police. And then when he tried to commit suicide, and they say that they did give the information of the knives to the state police. They could have prosecuted that kid early on, or they could have gotten him the mental health that he needed. His father is culpable. His father said, he sponsored him in order for him to get a gun. In order for him to sign off for that kid to buy a gun under the age of 21, he had to answer questions about this kid's mental health. And everyone knew about this. You're living with the kid. He tried to commit suicide. He's a loner. He's isolated. You know the kind of music he's singing. You know the crazy stuff that he's drawing. And that's without even looking at his social media. So I think the parents are in deep legal trouble, as well they should be. And I think that the police have to stop saying, oh, there's nothing we could have done. We didn't have anyone to sign a complaint. Baloney. I would have filed a charge in that case in a second. In domestic violence cases, family members don't like to file a complaint. You bring the case in the name of the people of the state of Illinois, and wherever it falls out in the end, that's where it ends up. But in the meantime, you get the kid in the system, you get a record on him, and you track him from that point.
You know, Sandra, every one of these cases, and they just keep coming, they always turn out to sound the same, but then you look into it and there's always one key characteristic that defines why this might have happened. And the judges brings up the father signing this warrant, signing this gun
void card.
Void, yeah, I mean, that is like that is what led to this. How could he not be charged?
That goes to the questions of the red flag laws, and at the federal level, obviously there's a lot of discussion in the gun debate over the red flag laws. They failed in this case, so local police never let the state police know that this happened. He wasn't just suicidal when they found those weapons that were not guns in the home at the time. It was knives and other things. He actually did say he threatened to kill everyone in his family. That is in the local police reports. That was brought to the attention of the local police. Without that being reported to the state police, as Judge is pointing out, they can't do anything to stop that FOID card from getting in the hands of somebody who clearly had intent to kill. I just have one thing. When it comes to Kamala Harris, and Jessica, to your point about this is, you know, you were talking about abortion and the focus on that and something that every woman in this country cares about. Every woman in this country also cares about their safety. And you look at what is happening around this country right now, and it is terrifying. Where is Kamala Harris in the city of Chicago? 68 people shot over the 4th of July weekend, 10 people killed. New York City, 21 shot, 3 killed. I just got an update on my phone a second ago. In the last 24 hours, since the holiday weekend ended in New York City, 9 more shot, 2 killed in the city. Why not stand here and promise to do more? Promise to end the vilification of the police, promise to amp up safety in our streets, because that, you can make the case, is going to be one of the biggest election issues come November.
100%.
I agree with the judge. I want the parents arrested. And the father came back to the cops and said, oh, those were my knives, daggers, and swords, actually, and he got them back. It's negligence. He's an accessory. It's like aiding and abetting the enemy. He's housing and sheltering and feeding a domestic terrorist. So that'll wake parents up if you hit a parent like with a charge like that. We had a case on the Factor where this sex offender kidnapped a young child, repeatedly raped her in a trailer the size of this table. There was 3 other adults in that trailer for 5 days while this poor girl is being brutally assaulted. And the DA didn't charge these disgusting people with an accessory. You have to be able to charge these people because you don't not know what's going on. He doesn't live in a mansion. You go, oh, let's wander over to the son's wing and knock on his door. I mean, these are small homes. You know what's going on. And in terms of the Joy Reid situation, a day after July 4th, you invite on a professor to slander the founders and besmirch the Constitution. You got to, I mean, I got a little advice for Joy. Last night I had a mermaid on the show.
You did.
She had a fin.
I saw her.
She was hitting from a babbling brook, and she spoke Mermish. Now, people would rather see that than a snobby professor. So I suggest maybe book someone like that instead of a snobby.
You know what? I love that you're coming out. You're pro-mermaid.
I am.
Yeah, there's not enough representation in cable news.
Does that surprise you?
No,
I'm more open-minded than you think.
Yeah, it's amazing. You know what? I'm going to have to start rethinking my own prejudices about the magical creatures from the sea.
That'll take a while.
Yes, it will.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.